What's happening, people? You know, I don't be trying to wait for no whole bunch of people to get in here because I only have 15 subscribers. So I just pretty much started talking, and you watch the live when you watch the live. Here are my thoughts on today. Obviously it's MLK Day. I'm not gonna necessarily say it's his birthday because it's not his birthday, but here are my thoughts on today. There's a lot of there. Well, I ain't gonna say a lot. I ran across a couple of black people who are in an uproar about MLK Day, and they're pretty much tired of hearing the same thing over and over and over again, which I can respect that. I don't disrespect or not respect anybody's opinion about some stuff because I have my own thoughts. My thoughts usually come from things like knowledge, wisdom, research, meditating on points, and seeing where things go, and actually sitting back and looking at the course of history over certain periods of time. And one of the things is that people have this thing against Martin Luther King now for whatever reason, and the work that he did, because to them they feel like his work was pointless because we're still in the same situation to a certain degree. We're not in the same situation, and let me tell you why I have a different feeling than probably I'm gonna go ahead and say upwards of 70% of most black people, not just on social media, but that I talk to in real life. I have a different outlook on the situation because the stories that my mom and my grandmother told me, and the things that happened to them back in the days, we don't have any of those things to deal with on a daily basis. For example, my mother, all right, my mother went to a school and drivers, which drivers at that time. I'm from Norfolk. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. That whole little area is what we call the Seven Cities. So if you know anything about that, you can Google it. But I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. My mom lived in what is now called Deep Creek, and that's in Chesapeake area. And she lived, back then there was no city. My mom's 68 years old, so just think back 58 years ago. You know what I'm saying? 58 years ago, 48 years ago. That's how things look: woods, trees, backwoods, and all of that stuff. Well, my granddad built his house from the ground up, and they lived back there in the woods. So my mom had to walk, a good little ways to get to the bus stop, and then she went to this school called John F. Kennedy, right? JFK. That was her high school. Now, at that time, this high school that she went to was segregated, right? Was segregated. And as she was going, and in between the time that the high school was segregated, it integrated, right? This is during the time that you got to think my mom grew up during it. She was a teenager at this time that Martin Luther King was doing the things that he was doing, right? And when the integration happened and they had to go to these schools, my mom was spit at. My mom was called all types of names. She was dealt with in unruly manners and stuff on a daily basis. She had to deal with this stuff on a daily basis. My kids don't have to deal with that, even going to public school, right? My wife and I can't homeschool because we have a lot of things going on, and right now homeschooling is not the perfect option for us. But what I'm trying to say is Martin Luther King and the people who had like mindsets in that era are the sole reason why you have the mindset that you have right now. And why do I say that? Because if you look through history, there's always a period of time of 10 to 20 years where there's a shift in the general population's mindset, because there's a person who comes through mess. But they changed a lot of things for the better, right? Now that change took about 10 or 20 years to settle in. So back then, we're talking 50s and 60s, black people's mindsets were way different. And for everybody that's saying integration did nothing for us, integration did everything for you. Integration is the reason why you have the mindset that you have to want to separate, if that's what you want to do, to divide the masses, to say there's some people that want to integrate, there's some people that want to continue doing things in that sector, and there's some people that color doesn't matter to them. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, they go and they get these certain types of jobs at these companies, and they get these certain type of business contracts with these certain type of people of all different races, especially white, right? So without that, sorry, hold on. Without that, you wouldn't have the thought process that you have right now. For everybody that has an issue with integration, you only have that issue with integration because your train of thought was molded for you through circumstances that you don't even know, that you don't even realize happened. All right. So let me sit here and talk to you about this for a second, because I got a little bit of time. You don't even realize that without those sacrifices, without those lessons in history, you can't critically think about anything. And this is where I get into it with a lot of people who read books, because I read books, right? I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. I do a lot of studying. I do a lot of meditating on what I study, right? I do a lot of deep research. Like when I research something, if it connects to a person, I also research as much as I possibly can about that person. Now, does that mean I'm going to know that person or know what their mindset is? No, not really. I'm going to know a general synopsis of what they may have been thinking, or what their mindset was, or what their background was that contributed to them doing whatever it was that they were doing, whether they were a trailblazer, or entrepreneur, or book writer, or philanthropist, whatever it is, because all of these things are important. The reason why somebody does something is just as important as the thing that they did. Now, like I said, when you read books, you're getting a perspective. An author gives you the writer, they give you a perspective of something, right? And while it says nonfiction, there's always a little bit of fiction in there, because they may spin the story a little bit different way because of their perception, because of how they project, because of how they see the world, because of their upbringings, because of their circumstances. Like some people that talk on other types of things, reparations, food stamps, government shutdowns, and all of that stuff, right? We're going to bring it to modern time. Some people that think about that talk about those things, they don't necessarily come from a background where that stuff affects them. So when they're speaking from the outside looking in. It's no different than going to somebody's house and looking at them at the dinner table with their family, and you're judging that, oh, this is a wonderful family. Look, they sit all down at the dinner table together, and they're eating, they're laughing, they're joking, they're smiling, and 15 minutes later, all hell breaks loose when you're not. They got it all polished together. You know what I'm saying? How many times have you heard on the news that people living right next door to other people, and they're like, oh no, he was a good person, a good neighbor, I always spoke to him, and he ended up killing his whole family, or she ended up having an issue and driving off a bridge with her kids in the car. Like the audacity to think that you know everything about a situation, or you know everything about a person's mindset, or you know everything about a time or a period in history, and then you speak as though you know everything. That it takes a lot of ego and audacity to do that, and in some cases you can steer people the wrong way, especially young impressionable minds, right? Young people who don't come from that time. They're only going off of what, because you're the elder, or you're the educated person in the situation, right? So again, one, words are spells, right? I told you, words are spells, right? For two, people can say anything they want to you. And for three, you have a responsibility to make sure that what comes out of your mouth is not leading people in the wrong direction, right? So before you speak anything, you got to know. So now here's one of the things that Martin Luther King taught us: to be careful about what it is, or the direction that you're leading the people in. Right? Because everybody talks about the quote, about what he said at the end. I led my people to a burning house. Now, you don't know what the revelation is that he got for him to say that. It may not have had anything to do with white people as a whole. It may have had something to do with integrating them, because the White House at that time, with Gerald Ford and him sitting down and talking to him and having these countless meetings, and how it threw the country into an uproar. Why would I throw my people into this? Look at what we've been through. We've been through beatings, and we done been through stabbings, and we done been through dog attacks and fire hoses and all of this stuff, and we have not responded with violence. But this here may have pushed us over the edge. This decision that I made to put us into this may have pushed us over the edge, and now I may have just integrated us with a burning house. That could have been his thought process. Now, his thought process could have very well been what everybody else is saying. You know what I'm saying? They think merging with white people as a whole was terrible, right? Maybe they thought something different. You don't know what that man's thought process was. But the point is that he made those choices. Those things happened and they were documented. And now that they're documented, you can look back on it with a whole different mindset. A mindset that you would not have been able to have in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Because you were just born, most of the people that are speaking were just born in the 70s, maybe the 70s, more so 80s and 90s. That's the people that are speaking on Martin Luther King right now. Those are the people that are upset, enraged, and stuff like that. You know, that age range between, I'll say, is maybe in their late 40s. Let's say late 40s. But that age range right there, those are the ones that are talking terrible. And the ones that are 60, 70, 80 years old, they have a whole different mindset about they've been brainwashed unless they have ingratiated themselves with today's society, which today's society says that you haven't done anything significant unless you're a singer, a dancer, a actor, a rapper, a TV personality of some sort. If you're a celebrity, then you've done something. If you give to a charity, then you've done something. And that's what they equate groundbreaking to. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and a business to make money for themselves, but nobody wants to fall on the sword for your whole people that are behind you. Nobody wants to make those type of sacrifices. You'll sacrifice time with your family before you sacrifice yourself to make sure that your family lives on make sure that your family legacy lives on in a positive manner way after you're dead and gone. I mean, think about that. Think about how old Martin Luther King would have been in this time, in this generation, had he not been assassinated, and what his mindset would have been. What would the young people be talking to him about? Because then he's around to tell you everything. Then he's around to let you in on those intricate details of the conversations that he had inside that White House behind closed doors. Right? There's no gag order. There's no silent act. There's no signing those little things where you can't speak. Right? It escapes me right now because I'm a little upset. I'm a little upset because I can't believe that wisdom is not being infused into this culture. It is all about a whole bunch of knowledge and what you think, and you're not even wise enough to sit and meditate on the information and the history that is a part of you. You are who you are today because those people made sacrifices that can't even be contemplated for real. It can't be equated to anything that's going on today. It can't be fathomed the what they seen and what they knew. The things that they knew. You have a handful of technology in your phone, right? You have vast technology and the wisdom to be able to teach the generation coming behind you. You use all of it for entertainment. You use all of it for monetary gain. You use all of it for self-interest. Right? And I'm not just speaking in general. If you don't, and you do the right thing with the technology and you putting out positive messages, you're leading people in the right directions, you know what you're doing, you're trying to set your family up, and you're on top of setting your family up, even if you don't have a family, you're trying to help somebody else constantly and stuff like that. If you got that mindset, then none of this will affect you in a negative way. None of what I'm saying will even graze you. But if you're one of those people that can't see beyond your hand and understand that everybody back in those times did things. The reason why I reference my mom is because my mom had to survive. Without her surviving, there is no me. There is none of my brothers, none of my sisters. We're not here. We don't exist. Or any other ones that you can name. The audacity and the ego that you have to disrespect what they and say that they done to Martin Luther King. Now, they're two different people. They did two different things, and what this person did was better. Understand that you're not supposed to compare yourself amongst yourself. You're supposed to be able to take a plethora of information, use that information to do better things than what they did. That's what the dream was about. That's what the dream was about, to keep us in a negative time frame, in a negative state, in a negative frame of mind. And we're always going to be fighting with each other. We're always going to have these issues. When you compare, when you compete, those are things that always happen because one side has to be better than the other. Unity, y'all don't understand unity. And it truly amazes me that there are more people that have no idea what unity is, and they're all about individuality. But they will get up here on these social platforms with followers, right? Unity, people who think with them in unison, and they will say to you, be an individual. That is the very definition of chaos, and you should separate yourself from chaos at all points, however you can do it. But back to Martin Luther King. We don't know what his whole thing was. We can only speculate. And what I speculate and what I see with my eyes, what I think, what my opinion is that he understood that he had to be a sacrifice, right? And I don't mean like he sat down with somebody and was like, oh, I know I got to do this. Nah, he didn't know that he had to do certain things. He didn't know what it was going to be like today, right? He didn't know any of those things. But what he did know was that he had to do something about the situation that he was in, right? Had he had social media, oh man, he knew that he had to get on TV because TV is nationwide. And I need enough people to see me so they can get behind me so that we can change some things. He wasn't slandering nobody else. He didn't go banging on nobody else. He ain't go to nobody else and say, whoopie whoop, bring yourself out in the street. We're gonna fight this. He wasn't chopping against his own people. He was fighting for his people. And in your eyes, he made mistakes. In your eyes, he should have never done this. No Martin Luther King at all. You take him out of the equation. You know how many people you take out of the equation when you take him out of the equation? You take his wife and all her great works. Let's not forget her. Let's not forget her at all. Let's not forget how strong and how brilliant of a woman she was. Let's not forget to reference her and that strong black woman mind sense that we're always talking about. We're always talking about strong black women, but you skip over the real strong black women, the women that knew what it took to go through adversity and still be able to push on to do great things. Still be able to push on to raise kids. Right? Raise legacies. Keep things intact. Fight for what needs to be fight. Carry on her husband's work. And infuse it with her work as well. Because the closest thing you can get to perfection and divinity is a man and a woman coming together. The man operating and functioning at an optimal thing. That's why two come together to become one. That's why it's important into brilliance and genius and apathy and empathy and sympathy and understanding, love, affection, all of these things, all of these different things, you embody all of them. Now, if you don't have a person, there's nothing wrong with it. You have a different lane. You can't be a doctor. Everybody can't be a train conductor. Everybody can't be a janitor, right? You really have to take into account these people that have an issue with what it was that Martin Luther King did. They single him out because he was nonviolent. And now that they have this banging on the church thing, they single him out because he was a pastor. So because he was a pastor and because he was nonviolent, now everything he done to you is trash. You with the violence, right? You with busting somebody's head to the white meat, even if it means you got to die. But if it means you got to die and you done laid your life on the line, what did you lay your life on the line for? Did you lay your life on the line for your own personal reasons? And you hoping that your own personal reasons are going to spark the next man to lay his life on the line for your personal reasons? Kill that off. Now who's left to carry the torch that you thought you were passing on? Because, you're going to die for anything. Sometimes it takes for you to stay alive in order for you to make that change. Sometimes it does cause for you to die. So without Martin Luther King, your mindset wouldn't be what it is today. He is, and I say back in those times, like, and I don't want you to think years ago, there's a whole totally different world than what it was, than what it is today. 2009 was way different than what it is right now. But we're talking about 1950s, 1960s. We're talking about integration. We're talking about segregation. We're talking about rights to vote. We're talking about not getting killed and maimed in the streets and things like that. And you got a nerve to compare what's going on today, what went on, what was going on in the world back then in the 1950s and 60s. More importantly, what was going on in just that small section of Alabama. If you just take Alabama and the killings and stuff that was going on there, they're pretty much neck and neck with what we have going on in all 48 states. So you cannot compare the past to right now. It did change. And if you can't see the change, then you're blinded by your own ignorance. You're blinded by your own hate and anger. You're not supposed to act in anger. You can be angry, but don't act in it. Oh, there goes another one of them Christian things. So, and that's not even a Christian thing. It's just a principle that's in the Bible. And in a whole bunch of other ancient texts. If you don't want to read the Bible, go read any other ancient text. And it'll tell you all of these same laws about not killing in your life. That you balance your family, being faithful to your family, leaving behind a legacy. Continue to work hard to do things that's in your life. You read it from. It doesn't matter what religion you subscribe to, because there's a lot of people that think that just regular not being religious is not being religious. No. When you do something religiously, go look at that term or any of that stuff in order to be religious. In the video, words are spells. And until you understand that, you're always going to be trapped under the spells of certain words when they're put in certain sentences. And it's going to keep you blinded. It's going to keep you moving in a direction that's away from the truth, that's away from resolve, that's away from solving problems. There's something to be said about what Martin Luther King brought to this world and what he left behind. And the fact that here we are all of these years later, all of these decades later, and we're talking about the works that he did. We're talking about the things that he did, the speeches that he gave, the things that he wrote. We're talking about his kids, talking about his wife. This is this man's legacy. And you choose to jump down the negative parts. Ah, he was a cheater. He was this. Well, what skeletons do you have in your closet? Skeletons in the closet to the things that you're trying to do in your community. Let's not bang on Martin Luther King as well as just like we do for Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, every other person that you can think of back in those times who were fighting to make sure that people in our times could do the things that we're doing, you know, like open up businesses and not have to worry about somebody throwing a Molotov cocktail through our window and burning our business to the ground, and we don't have no insurance that's going to pay for our business to be rebuilt, you know, that type of stuff. Being able to get into these positions to make money with no cap. Being able to hold down jobs, being able to, and when I say hold down jobs, like getting a good job, getting that position, and they can't just let you go for any reason that you want. Being able to have a lawyer, being able to go to court and fight for things, being able to have the knowledge to do all the stuff that we want to do and then some. Not even tap lives for us. So for you to talk negative or talk about any skeletons in their closet is the epitome of hypocrisy. And you're part of the problem. You are part of the problem. One of the things we say to our kids before they leave the house to go to school, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. The solution is for unity to be one of the top things in your agenda. One of the top things that you need to be remembered for is bringing unity. Keep talking about in the black community, in the black community. You hear that word? Community. Community. unity. I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna let y'all go, man. I talked long enough. I hope y'all have a good day, good night. You know what I'm saying? Leave me some comments down, like, share, subscribe, whatever. You know how that goes. Um, I don't have no donating thing because that's just not where I'm at. That's not why I'm doing this just yet. Maybe later on down the line, I may do the donation thing. But right now, this is solely about teaching and passing wisdom and information and knowledge. Uh, and I told y'all a lot of this has to do with my kids. I want my kids to be able to see and hear how their dad used to talk. You know, God forbid I get taken off this earth before my time. They got some things that they can go back and they can reference about what my mindset was and how I was trying to raise them. The things that I knew. Sometimes it's not enough that they spend time where you are inside of the house, and then when you go out, when I remember his verse, but one of the key things that he said in his verse was, "Do I just play this picture perfect person when I'm in public?" You gotta think about that, because that's what a lot of people are doing. And while they're in public, while they're speaking to the public, and they call themselves philanthropists and all of this stuff in between, they denigrating their own people. They're demoralizing other people that are listening to them. They think that they might have a faint thought that they can change some things in life if they just go this route, and they got inspired by somebody that you're speaking bad on, who can't even come and defend whatever it was that they tried to lay on the line, that they tried to do, that they tried to bring about change. Because you perceive it different, because you interpret it different, because you misinterpret everything that they were trying to do, and now you got to put your mouth on it. You got to go and speak those negative spells, those words are spells. You got to go and cast those spells over all your followers so they can follow you that this man tried to put into play, and which he did. He put a lot of things into play. So the question about what did integration do for us? Integration gave you right from white for real, and you want to have unity in your community, and you don't care if they black, white, Mexican, in between, all colors, all races, shapes, sizes, whatever, all ethnic backgrounds, then do that. But understand that your mindset that you have right now is because people of the past made sacrifices so that you could be brought up and raised in a place where you can have freedom of thought. They can change your body, they can break your body, but they cannot change your mind unless you let them. That's why words are spells. And you got to get to that point where you understand that these words are spells. And when they start speaking certain words in your direction, you automatically put up your block. Nah, you're not about to change my mindset. You're not about to have me out here fighting a battle that's not even mine. You're not about to have me out here laying my life on the line for something that don't even matter. That in the end, I'm going to disappear off the face of this earth. And then 5 or 6 months later, nobody's going to remember who I am. And my family's going to be left with a void because I'm gone. Because I'm angry and I'm mad because you were angry and you were mad. And you casted that spell over top of me.